Hi, I'm Old Sneelock. Welcome to another episode of Old Sneelock's Workshop. Today we're going to try and hang a hoist. Well, we're going to get started on hanging a hoist. We work the time we got, get done what we can. I started thinking about putting up a hoist in the workshop. That was an offshoot of the thought about having the sliding tool wall. I looked at the sliding tool wall idea and I checked on the tracks, and while I was checking out the tracks, I found a bunch of guys were putting up unit strut and then making bridge cranes out of it. I thought, wow, that would really be nice in that workshop, because I'm not as strong as I used to be. Not a good idea to be lifting things that I can't handle. And since I'm working in the shop by myself, mechanical assistance would be greatly appreciated. Now, I went online and looked up all different kind of hoists and ended up buying this one. It's not what I wanted. I wanted the 2,200 pound one, but I misordered it on eBay. Well, as time went on and I looked at the project, I decided that, I don't need a 2,200 pound hoist trying to hang it on the rafters of my workshop. The building might hold it, but then again, it might not. And I'd rather not take the chance. So, I'm going to unpack this hoist and then go through the process of seeing how I can set it up. Naturally, there's a bunch of packaging. It's designed to have a snatch block in order to give it the capacity to handle 440 pounds or 200 kilograms. The snatch block is supposed to clip into the side of the hoist frame. So I'm looking at the thing and going, okay, how do I make this work? What happens here? And trying to decide how I'm going to go about doing this. Now these are bolts that hold that trolley on, and I found as time went on that the trolley bolts, the bolts that hold the trolley on that came with a kit, are for a little 2-hole strap that you're supposed to use to hang it on a piece of, something about 2x2. So it's pretty lightweight stuff. I don't know if those are metric bolts or not. I haven't put them up against a tap and die just to make sure. But before I go too far along, I think I will. It's odd because the bolts thread into a 5/16 nut just fine. But the head's different. It's not a 5/16 bolt in America has got a 1/2 inch head. This one has got a smaller head than that. Still fits into the threads right into a 5/16 nut. But something's funny. I got to do some checking on that one. In the meantime, I'm thinking I'm going to have to come up with some way to make this work. There's the snatch block going to the side of the Not impressed with these bolts. 4 5/16 bolts should be able to handle 400 pounds without stripping. But it's just a spot welded in nut inside the frame of the hoist. Not exactly the way I would like to see it. When the tracks come, the tracks have a slot on them heavy enough to handle the load that the trolley is rated for, which is 1,300 pounds. So the head of the bolt will drop right through that little slot in the trolley. So I'm going to have to put a washer on top of it and put a spacer, a bushing in between, so that it doesn't slop around. Other people have mentioned that it's difficult to get them to line up, and I think that's because the holes are set up for such a small screw, and the slots in the trolley are set up for a much larger screw. You could handle a 1/2-inch bolt going through that trolley. But that's all right. We'll get it to work. The 5/16 bolts holding the hoist up, those are enough to hold the hoist. But the bolts that I got to hold up the crane rail, I think I overdid it. I went with 1/2-inch bolts. I think 3/8 is going to be plenty. It's going to make it easier to run the trolley back and forth in the track, because I won't have to cut down the head on the 1/2-inch bolts. So I'm going to go to Menards and pick up some other stuff, and then I'll come back and hit this another day and see where we go from there. Way below the rating on the trolley. We just have to see. So loud out here, you can't hear yourself think over the top of the rain on the roof. So we're just going to have to bear with it. Well, it's noisy, but I got the nozzle aimed away from this side of the building, and it's 60 degrees over here in this corner. So furnace is working. I'm out here in my grubbies and t-shirt trying to make this track work. Don't know if it's gonna work or not. Ran into something and I'm thinking, oh, you dumb bum. Problem is, I wanted to hook the hoist across these two center beams, and I can do that, but I can't go past the center beam. I suppose I could build a framework to hang the garage door opener down past that a little bit, you know, hanging off that double piece of angle iron up there. Just move those cross pieces down and build a triangular brace so that I can hook that thing up there and make it so that I can clear the rafter. But I'd have to go clear down there, and then I would run into that track underneath the beam. So that's just not going to work. I'm going to have it's 6 feet between the uprights, and I can go about 1.5 feet past that on this side. So I'm going to have about a 8-foot bridge crane. But a bridge crane, even an 8-foot bridge crane, is a great thing to have. Now that doesn't mean that I can't stick another bridge crane over there and have a bridge crane that comes out part way and another one that comes out part way, but I think I'm getting kind of silly by doing that because I got the door track and everything else getting in the way. It's just not practical. So as it is, I'm going to have to say, all right, I got an 8-foot crane. That's all I'm going to get. Now, okay, just on the off side, I don't know what you guys think, but I think I might be able to squeeze a foot out on this side. That would let me bring the crane out into the center of the rail, take it past that point, and go on back out that way. I don't know if it's worth all the trouble. But in any case, this little 800-pound crane hoist is going to work out really well. I didn't want to go with a whole lot of tonnage because I'm working on the rafters of the building, and I will tie them together with some braces. I've already done that on that one there, and this one is set up for Michigan winter weather with heavy snow. So if there's heavy snow on the roof, I don't want to lift anything heavy. But the nice thing is, with the furnace running and no insulation on the sheet metal, if it gets up above 40 degrees here, all the snow melts right off the roof. Makes a terrible muddy mess outside, but it does work. One of the things that I had to do to make this thing work, I wanted to put carriage bolts in there. Well, carriage bolts means they're rather flat, and you can drop them into the hole and tighten them up from the backside, and they'll lock themselves down. But to make it work, I had to grind the bolt head down. So that the track rollers would travel past it. But by doing that, I'm able to mount the track up. I just have to come up with a way to hook that to the rafter. Now I thought about drilling a hole through the rafter, and I thought, no, you're creating a weak point. So my intent is to have a steel plate let's say this is the one under the beam. Ignore this trolley for a minute. Come up through there, drill a hole there and a hole there. I think that's what I'm going to do. Then I just drill 2 holes out here
put the carriage bolts through. I want to put the nuts on top so that they stay out of the way of the track. So the hoist rolls right underneath that. That way the bridge crane, this bridge can roll back and forth on the track that's suspended on these, and I'll have a bridge crane. Whole lot of thinking goes into this. Well, we're up to 68. Fan's still blowing the other side of the room, so that side of the room is probably warmer than this one. I think I'll move the thermometer over there. Now, with this much heat coming out, it's cooling off outside. It's about 50. Fan's aimed right over at me. I'm going to set the thermometer over here, and we'll come back and check it in a few minutes. Might drop, might go up. I don't think it'll go up, but it might. Yeah, those three-part junction boxes, I got no use for them. If you have any suggestions for a new video, questions about today's video, or any of the other videos on the channel, just drop a note in the comments. You know I read them all. Thanks for watching.
This video is not to be viewed by anyone under the age of 13 in the U.S. or 16 in the European Union without the express written permission of the parents or the legal guardians of the underage person. Such written permission must be on file at the local government entity in charge of enforcing the rules and regulations established by the FTC. Anyone violating these terms is admitting by default that they hold harmless the owners and operators of this channel. Any and all questions should be addressed to your local branch of the FTC.